Hey, Adam, can you hear me? Is that thumbs up for me? I cannot hear you guys.
All right, can you hear us now?
I did that.
I hear you.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, we can hear you. We have your turn down over there, so it's not, the live stream isn't picking up everything. Yeah,
Is that
No, that's the end. Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Very good.
Okay, that's where we're at. We can hear you just fine.
All right, thank you.
So I hit that.
This guy, come to find out, just
There it is.
Oh, Robert,
Well, hello. How are you, Kurt?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good.
Good.
I see the gang's all here.
Yeah, it looked like they were there.
And I could use about 50. Sure. So there's a lot of stuff to get rid of.
Wow.
Donate or whatever. But it's fun. I'm glad I'm shedding. Everything
I
I
know
need
you were there.
well, I
It
have.
does, but
Not
that
much
will
else.
people to- Okay, no.
Yeah, it's good. To an extent.
Is everybody ready? Everybody ready? Okay. Julie, would you call the roll?
John Bartlesmeyer,
Here.
Elliott,
Here.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Nelson,
Here,
Would you stand with me? The pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America.
Republic and
And one nation.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have no comments tonight. Do any of the other board members have any comments before we get the meeting? Okay, KACTT quarterly update. Kurt? No, do I need to turn around? Kurt, do we have any kind of an update from the KACCT?
Yeah, I have a few notes that I put together with Alyssa's help and Heather Morgan's. And if you don't mind, I'll just kind of read through them real quick. And Alyssa, if you have anything to add, stop me or add to it, please. Okay, I joined the meeting on Zoom. It was out at Hutchinson and I wasn't able to attend, but it was on August 27th and the 28th as far as my part. I think Alyssa was there a day or two longer. One of the things we heard was from Tanya Wilson. She spoke about emerging legal issues, including changes to the Title IX social media litigation, which has just been settled in relationship to the K-12 and higher education, and then some other aspects of governance of which the Board of Trustees need to be aware of. And then Regent Cindy Lane talked about her role as chairperson of the Governor's Education Council and the Advantage Kansas Coalition. A discussion was held about how the K-12 and community colleges can better work together. And Regent Lane asked for consistent and constant communication to help advance the higher education system. And then we heard from Randy Watson, who's the Kansas Department of Education Commissioner, and he gave a real good talk about the Kansas CAM Tour and about the graduation task force, which is looking to make changes for next year's 8th graders. And he also spoke about the potential to be better integrated and share staff. And then House of Representative Jason Probst spoke about the upcoming legislative session and the issues of unemployment, a state budget which is structurally imbalanced despite record revenues, upcoming tax cuts, which we proposed this session, and the effects of poverty and how policy implications may impact people's decisions. And then Heather Morgan, who is the executive director, was presented a signed copy of the Promise Act with the pen in which it was signed, and that was to honor her contributions toward the legislation and implementation. And it's real nice that this presentation was presented by President of KACCT, Nancy Ingram, also President of Fort Scott Community College, Alyssa Johnston, and President of the Johnson County Community College, Andy Bowe. And then there was a little discussion about the Promise Act that was sent to all of the Fort Scott Community College trustees as through an attachment from Alyssa. It's a way for Kansas students to obtain a certification or associate degree at no cost. And it mentions that there are several fields of study such as information technology and security, mental and physical health care, advanced manufacturing and building trades, and early childhood education and development. And then a couple other points, EAB presented on enrollment trends, guided pathways, and facts about why colleges need to change what they have done historically relating to recruitment, enrollment, and student experience. One point that was brought up is that status quo is not going to be successful now or in the future. And then toward the end of my part, the presidents and the trustees broke into small groups to discuss issues and opportunities facing Kansas community colleges. And it seemed like two of the main topics that were discussed by all groups were dealing with the COVID effects and enrollment trends. And that is what I have. Alyssa, do you have anything?
No, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Thank you.
You bet, John.
Anybody have any questions, Kurt? Okay, thanks again.
You bet.
Oh, here we have comments from the chair again. What can I come up with now?
This part's about the budget.
Okay. Item C, and B, comments from the board. Any board comments? Thank you. Item C, approval of budget renewal revenue. Whew, I'm having a hard time today. Approval of budget revenue neutral rate. Review and adoption of 2021-22 year budget.
Would you like for Julie Eichenberger to say some, I mean, if you have,
Do you have any questions, comments from the book that you received last month?
No, yeah.
There's no change or.
Yeah, this is what you presented. I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't. Go ahead.
There's no changes to it, is there?
Huh? No, there's not. No.
Does that, do we need to vote on that, or is that just,
My understanding is we have to have an official approval of both the revenue neutral rate and the budget.
I found it. It's page 5, I believe. Yes. Hold on just a minute, please. Okay.
So the revenue,
It's item C, approval of budget revenue neutral rate.
right.
Okay.
So currently, what we are budgeting is 29.299. What the county clerk give to us was 28.055, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. And so we are going to exceed the revenue neutral rate just slightly. So we do need an approval of that. And then after we approve that, then we can go on to approving the 22 budget.
So quick question.
Yes.
If I remember right, well, we are exceeding revenue neutral rate for the mill levy is basically holding that steady.
And it's even slightly below last year's.
it's down a little bit
Down
from
just a
last
little bit.
year.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Very minimal. It was 29.322 last year.
Yeah.
So. But you're right, we're exceeding revenue neutral.
So administration recommends that the board approve the budgeted mill levy of 29.299 for budget 2022, which slightly exceed the revenue neutral rate of 28.055. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion. I will entertain a
I make
motion.
that motion for the recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote, please?
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer.
Yes. Item D, review and adoption of the 2021-2022 year budget. Administration recommends that the board approve the budget mill levy of 29.299 for budget 2022. Is there any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you please call for the vote?
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
The consent agenda. Oh, what, Julie?
I think you just approved the revenue neutral rate. You need to literally approve the budget. I think that's what it says.
Oh, that's what I did.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
at the bottom of that.
Yeah, it's
Julie.
at the
Okay.
bottom, it's item D.
Okay,
We got it both.
works. Okay.
It was.
Thank you. I need somebody to help me keep going straight here. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the consent agenda. Approval of the agenda, approval of minutes of previous meetings. Attached are the minutes of the regular board meeting conducted August 23rd, 2021. Approval of treasurer's report, bills and claims. Attached are the treasurer's report and the bills and claims report. Item D, approval of personnel actions. Additions, Elijah Root, financial aid, assistant director, effective August 30th, 2021. Separations, Keith Willis Auger, assistant football coach, effective August 25th, 2021. Dalton Brown, assistant football coach, effective August 27th, 2021. Gunnar Twiner, or is that Twinner? Twiner, okay, assistant football coach, effective August 29th, 2021. Dinah Pillow, resident hall housekeeper, effective September 3rd, 2021. Jess Hurd, assistant football coach, effective September 16th, 2021. Harry Hoodfoot, assistant golf coach, effective September 16th, 2021. Gentry Page, HEP instructional coordinator, effective September 30th, 2021. Item E, approval of Gordon Parks Museum board members. Separations, Jeremy Fraser, he was the city manager, wasn't he?
Yes.
Okay. Jeremy Fraser, effective August 3rd, 2021. It is recommended that the consent agenda be approved as presented. Is there any discussion? If none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you please call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Now moving on to
56.
page 56. I'm at 58, so it's, I was getting there. Okay. Item A, consideration of K-Jump Symmetry Settlement Agreement. I don't know where to stop. Fort Scott Community College participates in the Kansas Joint Utility Management Program, K-Jump, for natural gas for two of our larger meters, main campus and Burke Street. K-Jump membership is comprised of multiple K-12 school districts and community colleges. Participating in this agreement gives Fort Scott Community College a reliable source of natural gas when cold weather is here and pipeline transport of natural gas could be interrupted if supply is insufficient to meet demand need. The K-Jump contract party for natural gas supply was Symmetry. During the February 2021 winter storm, K-Jump participants were charged and or paid exorbitant, excessive, and or unconscionable rates or amounts for natural gas from Symmetry. As such, a class action lawsuit was filed for breach of contract. For February 2021, the billing for Fort Scott Community College was $36,539.59. The usage was 1,829. Is that cubic BT? I don't know how.
Yeah.
Okay, cubic something of gas. I don't know what MMBTU. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I should have asked earlier. Does anyone have notion of what that's called?
I can,
Some units be
Like,
British thermal units.
yeah, BTU's British thermal units, and that's like
British.
Metric million British thermal units.
metric, okay, thank you. That sounds.
You just Googled that.
Yeah, you did.
I can't take credit for
I was
that.
impressed.
Well, I was trying to figure out what it was, and I guess I should have Googled it. Okay. So, and I mean, okay, I'll just read this right
It's
here.
long.
What?
it's long,
Well, but I'm gonna read this page
yeah.
just because. Okay, KASB has provided the following feedback regarding the settlement. Symmetry will discount February gas prices to roughly $8.80 to $9.50 per million somebody's BTU based on local circumstances. The price paid for natural gas in the month of February will be cut while all other fees and pass-through charges will remain unchanged. K-Jump members will receive full indemnification from any pass-through fees or extraneous charges from their local distributors based on a failure of Symmetry to deliver natural gas in February. This does not free members from pass-through or associated delivery fees, but should ensure that they remain in line with regular usage. Members release Symmetry Energy of any liability and agree not to join any class action lawsuits or take legal action against Symmetry Energy in contest of natural gas prices for February 2021. Anytime information is requested about the details of the settlement agreement, notice must be made to Symmetry Energy. Pool members agree to take no performative action with media outlets or press. Though the settlement will become KORA eligible, once action is taken on it by your local Board of Education, our NDA requires us to take reasonable actions to keep the details of the settlement confidential. The agreement requires pool members to sign the agreement and make payment on or before September 30th, 2021, with no exceptions made for the deadline date. FSCC, upon agreeing to the settlement, will be credited $16,348.70 to resolve billing and all other aspects of the dispute. This agreement is far more generous than any other settlement being seen in the market, and we believe it represents the best path forward for our members to protect their financial resources while simultaneously avoiding a long and expensive legal battle. It is the recommendation of the administration that the settlement execution be signed in return for reimbursement of $16,348.70. Is there any discussion, any questions?
So we were billed in February to 36,000 and we paid that.
Yes. And then KASB took it up as a class action lawsuit that it was.
Even though they
Unreasonable.
said they wasn't going to do that. I mean, since we joined this group, they're not supposed to do that. It is always my understanding.
I don't know about
But
that.
they did.
That was, yeah.
So
Well,
It says right here, as such, a class action lawsuit was filed for breach of contract. So
Yeah.
apparently,
Yeah. It's always been my understanding, we joined these groups and not to have that fluctuation.
right, it's a consortium that should spread the risk.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it didn't do too much, so.
Yeah, I
But-
think Symmetry breached the contract in February by
Was
charging
it
us
just that 1 month?
just basically that 1 month. Yes.
Okay.
The rest of them were pretty much in line. That's when we had that really, really cold.
yeah, I got really cold for a couple of weeks, I think it was.
I think so.
So in theory, they're paying back what they overcharged.
In theory, yes.
I have no problem.
So are we made whole?
Are we wet?
Yeah,
Made
Made
whole.
whole, basically, we're recovering what
some of
we
that.
should have had the contract been on.
That, yeah, it's kind of hard for me to tell, but we were up, but our bills had not reflected that kind of an increase previously. But it's hard for me to tell whether we are or not, so I kind of have to settle for whatever KASB thought was
Okay,
reasonable.
okay.
Bill, according to this is my understanding, we were billed $19.977 per MMBTU.
Right.
And they are going to discount to $8.80 to $9.50 per MMBTU. And that's, I think that's the
Okay,
$16,348 that they're reimbursing.
understand.
Yeah.
Basically they said they were gouging. And so that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Because of
Okay.
that.
Yeah, we did have a heavy use in February because it was cold,
Yes, it was
but
heavier.
we're getting back
But they were
basically
gouging because of the.
It's like Texas, Oklahoma, and this whole area, they were just getting these astronomical gas prices.
Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I say it's better to get the money back than sitting here trying to sue them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to tell what was.
Legal fees, trying to get more money out.
Probably easily. No further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Julie, would you please call roll?
Meyer,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes,
Hart,
Yes.
Now, are we ready for C? Yeah, well, wait a minute.
Alleyway and shoe revision.
Page 63.
63.
This thing.
Oh, okay, I was there and now I'm gone. Oh, 87. It's item C though, isn't that correct?
B, what about B?
Where is B? What page?
Mine is page 63.
63, correct.
It's another one that's similar.
Oh, yeah.
Dave, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dave. Yeah, that's the actual contract with K-Jump, which is the consortium group. Sorry.
Well, I'm not. Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm getting there.
That's my fault. I should have told you. Should have listened to Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, item B, consideration of K-Jump contract with Wood River Energy. Fort Scott Community College participates in the Kansas Joint Utility Management Program, K-Jump, for natural gas for two of our larger meters, main campus and Birch Street. K-Jump membership is comprised of multiple K-12 school districts and community colleges. Participating in this agreement gives Fort Scott Community College a reliable source of natural gas when cold weather is here. The pipeline transport of natural gas could be interrupted if supply is insufficient to meet demand need to keep our cost level. I'm going to stop for just a minute. Didn't we just read all this in that previous one?
Right, that is the reimbursement from the previous vendor or contractor for gas. We are now up for a new contract beginning October the 1st.
So this is with Wood River Energy. Okay.
I think as part of all of that symmetry, overcharging and that type of thing. And plus, I think it was time for the 5-year contract to come up that they began to look for other contractors for natural gas.
Okay, I'm going to drop down to the last paragraph here, or the next, or just above that. Develop a list of important items to know and questions to ask Wood River before signing the agreement. See next page. Questions in black and answers in red. Learn that the Greenbush contract with Encore was past the participation date for Fort Scott Community College to join for the current 5-year contract. Provided Fscc historical MMBTUs for the past 2 years to the consultants for use in trying to get an agreement through a natural gas supplier, such as Encore, for comparative purposes or possible contract signing. On September 9th, the energy consultant replied to us that he was unable to find anyone to give reasonable pricing with favorable terms. He would not recommend the pricing options that he could find. If our Wood River contract option through K-Jump was still available, it would be preferable. Given the answers to our questions had been positive, there were no other options as favorable. The contract would give Fort Scott Community College fixed pricing at $4.26 per MMBTU for 5 years. We signed the contract and returned on September 9th.
Yes. what happened with this is that we received the Wood River contract, I think Alicia did, and they wanted us to sign it immediately. Like August the 30th. And so I checked into it and we found that we had until September the 13th to sign it and return it. So in the meantime, also the CACBO group, that is all the business officers, have been having a discussion about natural gas and vendors and what was everybody doing. Greenbush and this Encore contractor came up in the discussion. So I called Greenbush and asked, because none of us had any history or any knowledge of natural gas and transporting and all of that good stuff. I know more now than I did, but not near enough. So I called Greenbush and they referred me to the financial analyst consultant that I referred to in there, the natural gas consultant.
Okay.
And he tried to get us on the Greenbush Encore contract, but could not. We was already past the due date and they would not accept us other than like at $5 and something per MTBU or whatever those things are. So he gave me a list in the process of talking to him and him going back and research. He gave me that list of questions to go back and ask Wood River so that I would have a better feel of how contract for Fscc was. And so we talked through those questions, what I should be looking for, or answers and that type of thing. And so I wanted to give you those, it talks about interruptible service or not interruptible, that whatever, I don't remember the terminology he uses there, but that was the best that we could get, is basically not interruptible. Several different things that I should be looking for, and all of those were positive in Wood River. So when he couldn't find anybody else for us to contract with at a cheaper price, we signed the agreement for Wood River and went on because it was due the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Does to me.
Okay. But we do need board approval because that is a rather large contract for 5 years and it's quite a significant amount per year as far as natural gas.
And just 4.26 compared to previous contract is what?
That's hard to tell, Jim. Because the previous contract included your transport fee. The best I can tell, it's about 2.4. And then you had
Add-ons, you had add-ons.
We had add-ons and there was price differentials, so
Yeah.
it was really hard to tell.
So
Match up.
this is more.
This
what am I
appears
trying-
to be at least about $1 more per MMTBU, but it's hard because now they're gonna break
But
apart
it's
the
more
deal.
set, it's more set.
Yeah, this one I don't, hopefully we will not get the jacking up of prices when we get it opened
It
up.
should be 426 for 5 years, and you may have seen on the futures today, natural gas was a
Yeah.
whole lot higher.
Yeah.
So, we should be set, and the other thing about this is, of course, it's, wait to be seen, but they cannot interrupt our service.
Right.
So
That
they
was the big
can't
plus.
Reroute it to some other place, as opposed to us, if there is a shortage of natural gas like there was last
We have
February.
priority.
They can't start gouging us when there's a shortage and they can't reroute it,
Okay.
supposedly. So before, they literally could have rerouted it to somebody that was willing to pay the $9.96 or,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
know some of the little towns out in the counties, they were really,
They've
Really
had
did.
terrible bills.
And they were kind of held hostage like that. You either pay it or we'll cut you off because we don't have enough anyway. So it was just a classic case.
Did the rest of the board get the chance to read page 64 with the questions and answers? Okay.
The answers from Wood River were all the appropriate answers that I was supposed to be looking for. So,
Okay.
Julie worked really hard on it. She had a consultant she was working with. So we tried to figure out what was the best way to move forward.
she is now an expert.
no, I'm not, but I learned a lot more than I thought.
Probably more than you ever wanted to know.
Yeah, really more than I ever wanted to know.
And this, if I understand right, this contract was already signed.
It is already
But-
I
signed.
signed it back.
The board has to,
Approve it, yes.
Sorry, if we didn't sign it, we didn't get anything.
I understand.
and there were time constraints. That's correct, right? Okay. Because I
When
see
we-
they kind
yeah.
of jump around here a
When
little
we
bit.
got the contract, they wanted it signed within 6 days.
Yeah, they wanted it signed that day.
That Oh, day.
It was
that
the 30th,
But
but
we-
we were already past our August board meeting.
That's right, they wanted it signed on the 30th. Julie was looking into it. I signed it on the 6th, I think,
I think so.
after a lot of consulting and trying to figure it out. We had, and Julie worked, like I said, very diligently. We had hoped to be able to, just because we're more familiar with them, use Greenbush as our
Yes.
group, our consortium. But by the time we got this bill, knew what was going on, because we weren't made aware of it previous to that, then we were behind the 8 ball, so.
Well, that's just one more thing that Green Bush helps us with.
Yeah,
And, they did help us as far as their financial, I don't think he was called a financial analyst, gas consultant, something.
Mm.
But it was nice to at least know what to look for, because I had no idea.
And he was the Greenbush fellow.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
worked with Greenbush.
They do us a lot of service. I've been on the board, John's on the board.
Yeah.
More than what you.
oh, there's so much goes on
Oh,
that
yeah.
people don't know about that benefits Fort Scott Community College. It's just unbelievable. And I do remember them talking about this consortium for natural gas. How, because they're so big, they do save us
Yeah.
money. But now, now as I understand though, this is not through Greenbush
This is
though.
not the
Yeah.
Greenbush. We were too late for that.
Now, is that, now it appears, like here, it appears the contract's for 5 years.
Yes.
So we can't basically get out of that and maybe get back in with Greenbush then
No.
until for 5 years. Okay,
Sorry,
Um,
you're kind of.
well, we're between a
I'm
rock
out
and a
of the
hard
decision
place.
making here, but it was.
We can notify them after 2 years that we want out, but then we have to wait another year to get
Before,
out.
okay.
So we have to be in there 3 full years before we can get out.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure where Greenbush is in their contract.
I might ask
whether-
them at the next meeting and just see,
Whether they look at it every year, or they only look 3 to 5 years, whatever.
But the Greenbush guy said this was very comparable to what
Okay.
they were doing. So.
is that John?
It's not John because he wasn't the consultant, but John was,
He's their
he's their business guy.
CFO.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But this was, I can't remember the fellow's
I
name.
can't remember what his name was.
Okay.
He's just whoever they consult with on
Okay.
this.
Moving on, administration recommends approval of the signed contract with Wood River Energy for natural gas transport. Are there any more questions? Julie, or I will entertain a motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call the vote, please?
Meyer,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Now, I believe this is for the fabrication. The alleyway, item C, approval of alleyway and chute revision. Is that correct? Next. The chute and alleyways at the south end of Arnold Arena have been a safety hazard for many years. The recent building addition added an additional hazard, leaving a blind spot for students riding horses out of the arena on the south end. The attached quotes are for revising the participant chutes and alleyways such that as the drive wise, the north section closest to the building addition can be closed to vehicle traffic. This will still leave the south section of that Y open for community and student traffic, while providing a safe entry for participants during rodeo events and for students exiting the stalls riding horses. Excuse me, that was a difficult paragraph to read.
Sorry about that.
Okay. The three quotes were requested. $14,503.66 from Kramer Fencing, $13,913 from Ash Hollow Fabrication and Fence, $16,500 from William and Sons Fabrication. Funding will come primarily from funds available on the foundation. Dependent on final metal prices, remaining costs will be funded through the rodeo supply line. Administration recommends the quotes from Ash Hollow Fabrication and Fence for $13,913 to be approved. Sir.
Yes, Chad pointed out quite some time, so more speaking on Chad's behalf. So the problem with it is you can't see those kids as they're aggressing the arena on their way out.
No, exiting the ring on the
Yeah.
south end. I know.
So when they're coming down, like here, not that long ago, I'm coming through there and this little gal's got her buckskin horse. And of course, I know to be slow through there. All right. But had I come bowling through there like a little black car did the other day, running 45 mile an hour, it'd been over for her horse, and this college would have been a mess.
Mhm.
And I told Chad, I said, man, we got to get something done with that. I know. And he's recommending this kid, Austin. Now, there's a right way and there's a wrong way to build these pins. Because if you build them the wrong way, you're going to end up with just much trouble as if you build them, you know. So this guy, this is all he does is build these kind of pins and stuff like that. If you don't set them back posts in the right place, you're going to get them kids underneath them bulls and everything else.
Somebody's going to get hurt.
Yes,
Yep.
and so he's proposing that we bring this guy in who does this all the time, and he basically builds for these sale barns and stuff all the time. I think it's a great idea. I've seen some of the work the guy does. The guy does wonderful work. Now, some of these other ones that are on here, they're not that far-fetched on, where they are price-wise and stuff, but they'll build what you want them to build. This guy's got plans and stuff. Hey, this gate stops here to keep somebody getting trapped in there and stuff, So I think safety wise, it's probably going to be our best plan to go.
Expertise is needed in building these.
Yeah, and there's something I can build if you put a plan on, I can build it, but I can't build it safely like this guy can, to where these pins stop where they need to. It doesn't get some poor kid smashed up against the, another pin. And also with the stripping chute that Chad's asking about, that thing's been a problem for years. When I was a kid here, you just off and there was bulls, somebody grabbed the hook and jerked the rope, and then you run right up the side of the fence, to get away from it and stuff. So I kind of agree with both of what he needs done there. Of course, being on both sides of it all these years, I kind of see the need for it for sure.
And it's not only that, it's the lowest bid of the
It is the
three.
lowest bid, and this guy knows what he's doing, but he's also able to get pipe at a decreased rate because this is all he does is build pipe.
Any questions?
Have you already thought it through? And
He is gonna put it through for the ambulance to be able to get through, because we can't have a rodeo without an ambulance, can't get in the arena. And the way they were gonna build it originally, it was a little bit cheaper, and then Austin come back and said, hey, Chad, that won't work. He said, you can't get an ambulance in that arena, and that's a problem when you can't get the ambulance in. So
Okay.
I think they've went around every aspect of it at this point. I think it's, we probably need to do it for it.
Okay.
It's not very much money. If it
No.
takes-
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded twice. Julie, would you please call for the vote?
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Item D, discussion and consideration of COVID policies. The following COVID-19 guidance has been in place since August 11th, 2021. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Guidance will be reviewed every 2 weeks or more frequently as needed. Masks are expected of all unvaccinated individuals. Individuals who are vaccinated and not symptomatic and are exposed as a close contact of someone who is positive do not need to quarantine at this time. Individuals who are positive must isolate. Unvaccinated close contacts of a positive case who are notified by a health professional, the health department, must quarantine. Faculty have the discretion whether to require masks in office or classroom while they are teaching, regardless of vaccination status. Instructors are not required to Zoom with students in quarantine or isolation at this point. The instructors will work with the students to provide course materials via the learning management system, Blackboard. It is recommended that Fort Scott Community College continue to follow the guidance that has been in place since August 11th, 2021, as shown above. Is there any discussion?
Well, first, I would just like to say that we've done relatively well. That we certainly encourage you guys to, give your input as what you think. Right now, we have, as far as dorm students are concerned, we have 0 isolated and 0 quarantined. And Janet can update you. I do think we have a couple of non-residential students that are quarantined. They're harder to keep track of, though, because we just don't really have any way to do that. I think that Robert could probably tell me better. We have 4 or 5 faculty members that are requiring masks. And I can tell you from just what little I know, and this would also, Janet and Adam could speak to this better, but I don't think they've had any issues with students. I mean, they have the masks there at the entrance to the classroom and ask students to wear them. Janet said we didn't have any students, jumping classes. We didn't have them changing their schedule to try to get, a class or an online class where they didn't have to wear a mask. So it doesn't seem to be an issue. We did provide another vaccination clinic last week, which was a follow-up to the one that we provided, I guess, 4 weeks previous to that. So far, it certainly hasn't been perfect. And I can tell you at the beginning of the semester, we were having quite a few. At one time, I know we had close to 20 students quarantined and isolated. Isn't that right?
I think that's right.
But we have, I don't know whether it's kind of run its course or I just don't know, could be on the testing. Right now, the Kansas Jayhawk Conference hasn't really given us a whole lot of guidance. Basically, the protocol is the same that it was last year. And that was actually after some pushing because they basically hadn't said anything at all. So really with our athletes, it's just more like you need to let the team know if you have somebody that's positive that you're getting ready to play, and let them know if they're still willing to come or if they're still willing to have you come to their venue. And so those are some of the things, but we would just entertain any kind of discussion or thoughts, concerns.
Approximately how many students do we have on campus?
Residential,
Almost
400.
And you say and what is the number you have right now
Well,
of?
we don't have any right
No, I
now.
mean, that's what I mean. None on campus positive or
quarantine.
That
quarantine.
we're aware of.
I think that's really
We have
good.
2
And you said,
off campus that are currently
are they
quarantined.
living off campus?
They live off campus, but for them to be excused from classes, they provide me their documentation. And so right now we have 2 students that are quarantined. They were contacts. They were not positive. They were contacts. And since the beginning of the semester, we've had, I think, 14 off-campus students that have provided documentation to me. And only 2 or 3 of them were positive tests. All the rest were quarantined.
How many faculty and staff do you think we've had? Julie, McDaniel,
This semester, 1.
Yeah.
Who
Very
quarantined or was tested positive?
Positive.
Tested positive. Just personally speaking, I think that's great. I mean, really do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have more than
Did we-
that. 4.
Faculty?
We have
Well, no.
faculty and staff.
Oh, it works, sorry.
We're actually having, in our work, we have a young lady working for us, has 2 small children, one in kindergarten, one in daycare. And it's a day-to-day thing.
How do you mean? What do you mean?
It's, she's got her cell phone with her. She's always expecting a call.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And The one in daycare was contacted last Friday. She texted me and said he has been in contact. He has to stay home. She got a call from the county health, and they're 2 or 3 days behind. So, but it came after the weekend. He could go back to daycare, but had to have a mask.
Right.
He's negative on symptoms, but he was in contact with somebody that tested positive.
So if, not saying that this would ever happen, I'm hoping that it doesn't, but if you were to see a spike in on-campus positive cases, would you maybe reconsider some of your protocol at that point?
Well, that is one thing that we wanted to talk about, and Janet is chair of our COVID committee. And, you know, one thing that we had sort of considered was a trigger, you know, at
Yeah.
what do
At
we,
what point?
do we set a trigger? And of the 19 community colleges, you know, we've talked about this, some do have triggers. The triggers are usually related to residential students. And they're usually, from what I've seen, anywhere between 15 and 20% of the students, which would be a pretty significant number.
That's a lot.
But
No, that's lots of people.
yeah, for
You know,
us,
400, 15 or 20% is going to be it.
yeah, for us, that would be unmanageable because we wouldn't even have enough quarantine. We wouldn't have the rooms.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so.
And that was a question I posed to the committee at our last meeting, was to give me some feedback on what they would see would be an appropriate trigger to either institute a higher level, you know, mandate policy, or when we can come back off of that. And we won't meet again until the 1st of October. So, and I haven't gotten any feedback from them so far.
I was just kind of curious.
You know, I said that I think that's not true. I think Highland's trigger is maybe they're 5% of the housing.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not positive on everybody else, but one was I think Seth was 15. So.
Well, Dave, and I don't know if you can say anything about where you were. Do you have any kind of something like this, policies that your company uses that you can discuss?
Yeah, and ours is almost identical to this right now.
Okay.
And you notice I wear this thing.
Yeah.
What we tell folks is that we expect you to wear a mask if you can't socially distance. And apparently I haven't had a shower for a while because I'm socially distancing. So I don't have to wear my mask. But if we don't have a specific trigger, but if we were to see, holy cow, it's
Like,
going crazy on us, we put the mask mandate back in there.
Yeah, I think that's the trigger for us. I hate to put a number on anything.
Yeah, how do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Because it's also dependent, especially in this kind of a setting, it's dependent upon timing.
Yeah.
Because if you're approaching a major break,
yeah,
you maybe wouldn't do anything because you know you're going to be dispersing everybody. Or maybe you would do something different because you're dispersing everybody. There's too many variables to say, if this happens, then this is going to happen next. There's just too many variables to it, I think.
Okay, well, I feel really confident in Alicia and the administration
And I
and how
think
it's working out here. I really do.
we can come to you with, I mean, Janet she gives us feedback on what the COVID committee recommends or questions that they have. You might give them a little, who's on the COVID committee? I mean, in terms of makeup, you don't have to say people. But.
We have faculty and staff. So we have, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 faculty. We have several staff members. We try to hit various offices around campus. So, you know, someone that works in the business office, someone that works. I hear a horn going.
I think it's a car.
You know, just from athletics, we try to hit multiple offices just to get a lot of input from people. And I will tell you, there's a lot more people that wanted to be on the committee this year. But we are an advisory committee, so the committee itself is not going to set policy, but we want to get that.
But that's what you do, is you listen to people
Yes,
and you
and we
say-
want, and that's what I tried to get through to them last meeting was it's a communication path and we need to go both ways.
But we need to know if they're having troubles in the
Right.
classroom
Yes,
or
and
on
we
the
want them
field.
to bring that back to us.
And then we
whether
can
the
bring it
classroom
to
or
you
the
guys,
offices,
yeah. Like if it looks to you guys like, it's going crazy out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, it is recommended that Fort Scott Community College continue to follow the guidance that has been in place since August 11th, 2021, as shown above. Entertain a motion.
So move.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote, please?
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Thank you. Letters and correspondence.
We just have one and it's not a letter, but it's actually a recognition from Perkins. And that's basically, it's called the Special Populations Champion Award. I can tell you that our Perkins, of course, is a grant that is federally funded, but it's actually the state then is the pass-through agency. But it's a lot of work and Darlene Wood does an amazing job managing our Perkins. But the way we get Perkins money are career and technical education students, and they have to be post-secondary that qualify or receive. They have to receive, not just qualify. It is based on the number of Pell recipients that you have in those career and tech ed programs. Actually, our Pell money was up a little bit this year. I think we will get around 190,000 and we were around 160 because we got notified, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, I think, of our Pell recipient number. But actually, Darlene is on the national Perkins or workforce.
She's a part of the National Association of Career and Technical Education Information Board. She's a regional director.
She's the regional director. She does an amazing job. As a matter of fact, we actually, I say we, it's really Darlene does Pitt State's Perkins. They had not participated until 2 years ago.
2 years ago, they became eligible. And if you receive less than $50,000 as an entity, you have to have a consortium agreement with an entity that receives over $50,000. So Darlene oversees all of the Perkins money for Pittsburgh State.
Excellent. Very good.
So it comes to us and we get to tell them whether they get it or not.
It's kind of fun, isn't it? Okay.
We usually let them have it.
Let them
Just
have
go
it.
with it.
Okay, administrative updates.
Shall we start with Jen?
Sure. I don't have a whole lot to add. I just want a couple of things. It's nice that admissions is able to get out to schools this year. Most of our local schools are letting them actually come in person, not only just to do the high school visits, but to do the college fairs. The high schools up in the city are still doing virtual, but they let us set up virtual meetings, so we do that also. Ambassadors have started being able to get out and do some things and have some community involvement. They're also helping to run what we call the pantry, which is our little stop over there for kiddos to get supplies that they might need. Advising is just doing what they do, degree audits and helping students plan for the upcoming enrollment that's going to start in October, right? So we'll start planning for next semester. Camp and HEP are starting up, their grants, of course, were renewed, and so they're starting their new year programs. As we're enrolling up enrollment numbers. So I really don't have a whole lot else. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Before we move on to Adam, we do have the media kit in here if you have any questions. Cassie is our Director of Strategic Information. And this is just kind of what she put together in terms of, so if you have any questions at all, you want to speak to that, Cassie?
So on page 103, if you aren't already there, over the summer, I had tons of requests for what our color codes were and our slogans and logos and all that. So I decided to put together this media kit that gives them all the public information that they need. So I put in our mission statement, our core values, our vision. So everybody's on the same page. Logos that they are allowed to use. Some departments have their own logos, and so those are available upon request. And that request goes to me first, and then I kind of discuss it with whoever that program coordinator is, if they're okay with that person having their logo. And then I went through and calculated all the different types of color codes that our college has. So like the maroon, the dark gray, the light gray, and we actually have tan. We don't ever use it, but we do have it, with our subcolors being white and black. So that way they can send this information out to vendors and they have all the color codes they need and they know who to call if they have any more requests. All the general information, like contact information, is basically goes to my office first, and then we kind of divvy it up from there. We also I provided our fonts for our college and our slogans as well. And then I also included just more verification and signed off that everything was correct. If they have any questions, they can contact me.
How'd you get the picture of these three baseball players with the ball up in the air like that?
Kenny Felt took that photo.
I'm joking. That's pretty good. This is nice. This looks really nice.
I didn't include the gizmo or anything to do with the mascot because as far as I knew, we were in the works of changing Gizmo out. So I didn't include him in there, but it does mention we are the Greyhounds or the Hounds or however, and all that also is upon request. So with y'all's okay, I want to go ahead and put it on the website so people can use it.
Sure.
Cool. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassie.
Okay, so a couple of things coming up. Janet mentioned having the schedule out, so mid-October we will start enrollment. Should be reviewing that schedule here in a couple of weeks. Alicia, Chris Mingarelli, and I will travel to Arizona in 2 weeks, or a little over 2 weeks, to present at the National Council of Workforce Education Conference on business and industry partnerships, K-12 partnerships, and how they relate to workforce education, and best practices from that perspective. On October 18th, we will have math relays. So we do not have classes October 18th, but we have about 300 students so far signed up for math relays. And so should have a good showing there. And this will be, I think, Kathy's final math relays, Kathy Malone's final math relays. So she's looking forward to hosting that one last time.
Do we have someone who could take over after?
Yes, the plan will be that we'll roll into the math department, stay with the math department.
Thank you.
And then the majority of time lately is focused in Alicia's update, and I will let her talk more about that. And that's the Lynn County.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about it? You're doing a good job.
Okay, so not too long ago, I think the first year I was here, we met with the superintendents in Lynn County and the school districts in Lynn County, and they had talked about wanting to get a technical center up and going. Well, through some changes, that discussion and momentum kind of died off, and fast forward to this past summer, and they started getting a little more momentum, a little more desire to offer technical classes in Lynn County at an actual technical center. Boards changed within the school districts. The superintendents are a little different and a little more comfortable with what they're doing. And then last week and we've been in discussions with all the superintendents and the boards for the Lynn County schools. And last week at the Pleasanton school board meeting, they approved the purchase of the old Cox Motors building. So for a technical center. Pleasanton school districts and a couple of the other school districts in Lynn County put out information that they would be partnering with us. And while, yes, we are planning to work together, we have a meeting this Friday to discuss what programs we're going to do. We surveyed all the high school students in Lynn County with what programs they're interested in from a technical education perspective. And so we're going to sit down and really address the logistics. The districts hope that they're ready to be offering classes in August of 2022. So next August, be offering classes at the old Cox Motor building in Pleasanton. And right now the plan is for Pleasanton, Jayhawk, Lynn, and Prairie View to send students. Also some interest from Lewisburg High School to send students down to that facility. So just working with them, what programs make the most sense. There's a lot of interest in construction and heavy equipment operation. We don't have heavy equipment operation on our books right now. We run heavy equipment operator as part of the construction curriculum. We would look to go forward with that as a new program, a standalone heavy equipment program as a regional need. So that's kind of a quick overview of what transpired there for the Lynn County Technical Center. If you've seen some of the communication from the Pleasanton or Jayhawk administration, or if you read the article that we wrote that went went on Fort Scott Top Biz last week. So just kind of an overview of the information of what's occurring in
And
Lynn
just
County.
to that's a great job. Just to add to that, we won't own the building. We won't put any capital improvement into the building. We will just do the programming. And we're hoping to stand up, maybe to start with 3 or 4 programs in August. And Adam had put the survey together to see what programs are the most needed. It is exciting. I mean, there's always a lot of, the devil's in the details, but we're excited to be able to do that. I think it will generate some interest, hopefully for some post-secondary people as well. One of the biggest challenges a lot of times that we have with these programs are finding instructors. And so sometimes that can be the biggest hurdle in being able to get those programs started and moving forward. Because we have obviously the curriculum and stuff. We will look at writing some grants to try to help them out in terms of equipment needs. For instance, for welding, obviously you have to have, there's a lot of ventilation and, those kinds of needs that go along with that. And it can be pretty expensive. But we're excited to be able to help them out. And I think that the folks in Lynn County are excited as well. That is our service area.
Yes. And so,
But we don't want to own anything.
Still pretty infantile right now in what we're doing. But there's been an ample amount of discussions about what programs to offer up there. And there's just some things that if the students are not there, we're just not able to do. If no students are interested in HVAC, we're not going to do HVAC, but we wanted to make sure that we were putting programs up that will put the students in the programs from the local school districts and then turn them out to keep them in the region. It's really with that.
Dr. Allen's the one that approached me about
Yes.
Some time ago, but I thought he told me that the old Cox building wasn't available.
Well, it wasn't then, but we looked at there was a building across from the old Cox building.
Right.
And then we discussed a couple of times, building out by Highway 69 and the cost of a new build. And through that discussion, apparently the old Cox building became available for the school district.
Jay Allen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's
He's
on the board
one of the big pushers for this.
Yeah, he's on the board at Pleasanton.
Yeah, he approached me about it and I said, man, I'd love for the college to get involved in it. So I'm glad that worked out for them.
Yeah, so we're August of 2022 is an aggressive timeline given the current state of the building and the amount of updates you have to do to put any of the programs in there, especially if you look at welding, construction that are
Or
equipment
large
based.
equipment. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do that, but.
And lots of fire code issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know Jay said there was a lot of local infidels,
Right.
people that wanted to help get this going. I thought it was great, so good.
Yeah, I think it will be good. It will be a center, you hope that it can be a smaller version of what CTEC is
Right.
down the road.
I think it's
So,
great.
I did have one other item.
Sure.
Okay. And then I would be remiss here in October or November, Sonia Gugnani is going to come present some of the updates to our assessment efforts. And her and Susie Arvidsson and the entire assessment committee, Robert's a part of the assessment committee. I'm not going to try to name everybody off the top of my head, but they have done a lot of work in the area of assessment. It was one of those areas that we were notified by the Higher Learning Commission that we needed to improve on. So from an accreditation perspective, it was by far and away our biggest focus area. And over the last year, they have done a ton of work. Everybody within that committee has done a ton of work to start moving us forward. And I think it would be good, I think it would be positive if they could come kind of update you because they can do a whole lot better job telling you everything we've done and what we're going to be doing over the next 5 or 6 years in assessment work to really kind of give an appropriate update. So it would be, just put that on your radar and thank all of them for all of their work.
Okay. Julie?
Business office and financial aid is paid out, processing refunds this week. So that's our biggest challenge this week and for several weeks going forward, we'll process every week. I had forgotten when Alicia mentioned Pell, our Perkins going up, and it was related to Pell. And kind of like Adam, I want to say a big thank you to the coaches and particularly to financial aid that have worked very, very hard in a different manner this past year than previous years of contacting students and getting their FAFSAs completed so that they could receive Pell. So I had forgotten how those two tied together. So I need to remind them of that and thank them tomorrow. But that I think we were looking at what we were processing yesterday when we were all in as a group. And I think we only have one of the largest teams on campus only has 15 left that have not completed their FAFSA and that type of thing. So that is a big plus for where we usually are at this time of year. So they've done a great job. As far as maintenance, you can kind of see they've been really busy. It's beginning to taper off and kind of settle into a normal routine now. Sometimes when students come back, you find those things that older buildings have set over the summer, they get kind of cranky in their age and they don't want to do, they don't want to operate as usual when they're not occupied. And so that's kind of gone and completed. What? I will say Jared's been using the excavator and has replaced some of our sidewalks around here that needed to be done. He used it a lot over at Garrison to do some of that work. So that was a good investment on that as far as saving us money. Trying to think what else is going on. Kind of just moving along there. Garrison, do you want me to give an update of where we are in Garrison?
That'd be great.
Yeah. We had been waiting, the two things that we've been waiting on was the sounder alarms for the fire system and the panel for the fire system. And then for the sprinkler contractor to get free, he was, with COVID having us all at home, he had jobs that lined up to the point that he couldn't get us. He had to work through all those jobs to get to us. Well, I noticed today he was over at Garrison, so he's putting in the sprinkler this week. And then our fire alarm system, it was shipped last week, all our parts and pieces for that, so we expect to get that. So we may be getting fairly close, just getting the fire marshal in there after that's completed. So I'm kind of hoping about 3 weeks, 3 weeks, we're in there.
I think she's being really optimistic.
Who knows? Maybe-
Well, I'd rather be optimistic than
We still haven't
pessimistic.
got fire marshal approval for the sprinkler system yet,
Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
that's true. Well, it may be longer, but let's hope.
now,
I hope you're
Now,
right.
she was the optimistic
I know.
one at
Yeah,
first
but
of the
I'm
semester, and I
becoming
was
pretty
the one,
positive
"You
about
ain't
this."
there."
you said the fire alarms equipment or whatever, what has shipped or something?
It shipped last
Now,
week.
do our maintenance people install that, or does that company do that?
The electrician has it all ready and he will come in and put it in.
Okay.
So we have somebody that's already put in all the electricity that's needed for it. We were just basically waiting on the parts that go in there to sound and that type of thing.
Well, I know that's been a real problem because of the time frame and things just
Yeah.
took longer than we ever anticipated, but
Things are on terrible back order. I know.
I deal with that every day. Even
Yeah.
in my small business, it's just getting stuff is just terrible.
Yeah, and even last week, I was telling him this morning, we were talking about the cafeteria. Paper plates and paper bowls and that type of thing. Sometimes you can get them, sometimes you can't. They're not in stock. And so, and if they are in stock, they're about 3 times more expensive than what we paid last
Yeah.
year. So everything is on a back order. IT's doing great. I think they got the last of their hover cams in. Can't remember exactly. And they're working on that Zoom thing, Zoom rooms.
There's a couple of there is at least one of the hover cams we're having a little bit of an issue
Yeah.
with, so
I
doing
guess
that.
Chris could tell me that. He's
Yeah.
up there.
And then the Zoom room, we've delayed the Burke Street update
Till,
out a few more weeks, so because logistically, to do that update, we have to move nursing classes up here to the Ellis building. But the week we were going to do it was the week of the Gordon Park celebration, so we didn't want to overtake that, so we moved it back a little bit further.
I just want to comment on the maintenance people that's worked on the garrison. They have done a tremendous job on campus. Because if you were to come to us and ask for a contractor, I'd say, get in line, it's gonna be 6 months. They went right directly to that and worked tirelessly on that. They did a tremendous job.
yeah, we would have been in there pretty close to, they've been basically done
They really.
3 to
hard
4
on
weeks now, but it's waiting on that contractor.
Yeah.
That is got a backlog of jobs to do.
Yeah.
Hello,
They've done
can I call you back?
to prove they're a very talented director. They're very talented at what he can do and get started and that type of thing. And has good relations with electrician or plumber or
Yes.
whatever in town to get that help that he needs. So,
Oh, I know a couple of months ago, I mentioned the maintenance people out here and it's sort of like behind the scenes and stuff, but
yeah,
I think they do a great job and they need more notoriety or whatever you want to say, or compliments. Okay,
Tom snuck in, so he was over at the volleyball game, doing game management, so.
So it's my turn for my
Yeah,
update.
it's your turn.
Okay. I'm not sure if you guys, updated them on COVID and whatnot yet.
We did do the
0 and 0.
COVID. You might want to talk a little bit about Garrison and where we're at with the folks in terms of
Sure.
students and where they're at.
Sure. So we had a large amount of students that were supposed to go at Garrison, and obviously we're full everywhere else on campus. And so we had them staying at the sleep-in for during that time, it obviously is not the most ideal situation to have.
It's like your house.
Squirrel.
Christmas vacation.
I have students at a hotel, and so we have moved them out of the hotel into some openings at Mercy that we had, and then we moved some. Normally, Greyhound is the dormitory that ends up, we see some attrition at the beginning part of the year for various reasons. A lot of football players come here and they decide that either college or the football program is not best for them. And so usually Greyhound is the one that we do see some vacancies in at the beginning part of the semester. And so we took the male students that were living out at Mercy, moved them into those open rooms at Greyhound and took people out of the hotel and move them out to Mercy, and they will eventually be able to go into Garrison when it's finished. So it was quite a bit of shuffling, but it worked up to this point, and that's where we're at in terms of all of it.
Are we done with the hotel thing?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they moved out on Thursday, and one of the big challenges there was Sleep In reserves out their rooms during the weekends a lot. And so there was multiple times, 3 days since we were in there, that they were full. And so we had to take those students and find other accommodations for them, which is a challenge, trying to find where to put 40 students for a night. But we made it through it, and they moved out of the hotel Thursday. And so Friday was their first night in where they're supposed to be. No.
Tom, did you want to say, sorry, do you have a question? Oh, I was just going to say, we did visit today at our executive meeting about, in terms of, we are going to try to make sure that we've taken care of those students with compensation. So you might want to, we won't charge them.
Sure.
Go ahead, if you want to talk about that.
Sure. And can Julie correct me if I'm wrong with it? But it was an unfortunate thing that we did not intend to have those students be at an apartment or a hotel for a period of time. They thought that they were getting our new apartment living, and things just didn't work out. And so we are going to give them the meal plan during the fall semester, because they did eat, because normally those students who are at the apartments they're not required to get the meal plan because they have kitchens and everything. But while they were at the hotel, they didn't have kitchens, obviously. And so they had to eat in our cafeteria. And so we comped them those meals, and we'll continue to do so for the remainder of the semester. And then in terms of their charges, can you remind me what we decided to do with that? I know that we're not charging them for apartment living.
We won't charge them at all.
Yeah.
When they moved out in with different.
Right.
areas.
We
And
won't
so
charge
their
them at all
charges-
while they were in the.
Right.
motel.
And so the students who are at Mercy, who are at Mercy now, will get charged that rate and nothing during the time when they're in the hotel.
Right.
And so when they move into Garrison, I'm assuming that we can start their bills at that point at Garrison. But the students might see a couple different things on their bills, which could be confusing, but we'll communicate that to them as well, so they know what they're looking at.
They will be compensated for the time that they were at the hotel. And so we'll have to back those bills back out. And for Julie's office, it takes that's a lot of manual work to sit down, and you'll have to do every single bill, every student separately, as we say, okay, well, if you move from here to here, then you get this much of a reduction. You get this of a reduction if you're moving over here. So it is quite a process, but I think appropriate because it wasn't what we had intended, and it was very difficult for the students to manage all that. We appreciate their efforts, and I certainly appreciate Tom and Marcy and all the efforts that they put into managing this. And trust me, Tom's heard a little bit about it from some unhappy customers. So, and he always handles it well.
So they say.
Thanks.
But I think that's all I have for my updates, unless you guys have any questions. Okay, I'm gonna head back over to the volleyball game.
All right, thank you, everybody. Just a couple of quick things from me. Like Kirk said, the KACCT, which is Kansas Association of Community College Trustees, which I know you guys probably know what that is, but they held their meeting. It was It was a good meeting. It's always nice to be able to visit with the 18 other community colleges because a lot of times that just reaffirms that we're not the only ones in that boat. And sometimes it's kind of refreshing too, because you're like, oh, well, we are doing some things right compared to, those guys over there. But it is always nice to be able to get to visit with those folks and to be able to get a lot of updates. It is kind of interesting. Julie was talking about FAFSA. I co-chair what they call the System Council of Presidents this year for the Kansas Board of Regents. And we had FAFSA on our SCOPS agenda, the System Council of Presidents, because one of the biggest problems that we see, and I know that Julie, certainly Lily, and Janet can speak to this, is the FAFSA, the Federal Financial Aid Application. It is so difficult for students. Now this is a federal issue, but it needs to be simplified. And it is a huge hurdle, especially for first-generation college students. It would be easy if the IRS computers would just talk to the Department of Ed computers. It should be a couple checkoffs and we could move it over, but it's not. It is overwhelming. It's intimidating. And so if we ever get the opportunity to advocate for simplification of FAFSA, which they've done a little bit, we always try to do so. I know that with Senator Moran, I'm always telling him, we need that, we need that, we need that. And that is something that has been kind of brought to the forefront. As a matter of fact, Board of Regents had a combined meeting with the State Board of Education last Wednesday. The State Board of Education, one of their goals, they believe, is going to be that as a requirement, it's a possibility, as a requirement of graduation, students would have to fill out the FAFSA. Because they know that students that fill out the FAFSA are much more likely to matriculate into those higher ed, institutions. And right now they have a very low rate of FAFSA completion. Actually, right now, the states that have gone to that have really done well, like Louisiana, which, has issues with other areas. And so it's something that they're talking about. Another thing that came up that I thought you guys would be interested in, we'll see how it goes, but the State Board of Education is also talking about making sure that students can receive at least 15 credit hours in high school of concurrent college enrollment. And that would include your basics like Comp 1, a history or a humanities course, math, college algebra, a life science. Is there 5 courses, Adam, that they've talked about in the past? Oh,
Is that what
psychology.
they used to call core classes?
Yeah, so some cores. And I can tell you that, we believe it's a great idea. Of course, there's a lot of hurdles between how we're going to accomplish that, how it's going to be funded, how we will, because it's not free to do so. They talk a lot about free community college education. It's not no cost. And so that would have to be a completely different funding stream for us. And the other, just so you know too, because we're going to hear a lot about this, one of the biggest hurdles we're going to have with concurrent enrollment is being able to meet the criteria of the Higher Learning Commission with faculty qualifications. The faculty now have to have either a master's in their area of study, which is uncommon for K-12 instructors or for high school instructors, or they have to have 18 hours.
A master's degree plus 18 hours.
A master's degree, but 18 hours in their curricular area. So like if I had a master's in curriculum, I could teach, let's say, college algebra if I have 18, and they have to be graduate level courses. If I had, I'd have to have 18 graduate level hours in math. That's hard to find, really hard to find in math and science. And so that is going to be a huge hurdle for us, especially in an area where it is really difficult for us to attract, a large population of instructors, and especially at these high schools. And frankly, the high school, we can't afford for them to go get their master's. There's really no incentive for those high school instructors to do so. And so that will be one of the biggest hurdles for us. And so we're going to hear quite a bit about that. Just a couple little things on my update. It's this is always fun. We had football students reading to some of the first graders at the first grade classes at Winfield Scott. So maybe you had a chance to see that. I can assure you that as much as those first graders enjoyed it and got out of it, our students got just as much as they did. And so that is always really fun to get that and to see those students be able to interact with those young people, because it's great for our students and it's great for theirs as well. So I would be happy to stand for questions. Picture you in there, Robert. You see it?
Oh, I saw that too, yeah. You're mixing up some kind of concoction, wasn't it?
I think I was showing them something.
If not, that concludes my report.
Okay. Anything else to come before the board?
John, can I mention?
Yes, go ahead.
There's a committee that's been working very diligently on the Gordon Park celebration, which is coming up in October. And Kurt and that committee's worked very hard to bring in I think a super program for that celebration. So they're to be commended. I've only had a chance to meet a couple of times with them, but they're doing a good job for them.
I've talked to Kirk quite a bit about that, and I think he's doing a good job, and especially bringing this musician in for this program that they're going to do Friday night. I don't know how many tickets they've sold, but I think that's something a lot of people would really enjoy. And I think the Gordon Park Museum is a fantastic asset for Fort Scott Community College. Dude. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. You're welcome.
Anything else? I take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right.
Kurt, you've been overruled. Meeting is adjourned. Do that, Kurt. You were just a little late answering. All right, thank you.
Sorry that I missed the meeting.
Kirk, since this is the only night a month you eat out, I brought some to-go boxes and I'd be glad to drop that off for you on my way home.
He's like, what?
What?
I think that's a yes.
Julie,
I think that sounds good.
Okay, that sounds good.
Bring food.
Sounds